What's up, everybody? I'm Katie, and this is For Your Misinformation, a podcast dedicated to making politics more accessible for everyday Americans. My goal is to empower people, especially women, to become more politically engaged so we can act in our own best interests. Let me identify the problem and tell you exactly how we can solve it. On Mondays, I break down topics like voter suppression, impeachment, and white supremacy, look to the experts in that field, and then talk about the ways we can help the most. That might be donating to a charitable organization, voting in a local election, going to a rally, following activists on social media, running for office, or whatever else we can think of. On Wednesdays, I highlight individual politicians, whether I support them, and who you might want to vote for instead. Iran feels like too big of an event not to comment on, but I still want to talk about impeachment first because my biggest concern is that Trump helped orchestrate the attack on Qasem Soleimani in an attempt to distract from the impeachment inquiry. So a few weeks ago, right before Trump ordered that strike on Iranian general Qasem Soleimani, emails came out about the Ukraine scandal that made Trump look even worse and even more guilty than before. They proved that he knew about the entire thing and that he even helped orchestrate it. So, Nancy Pelosi, Speaker of the House, waited a few weeks to send the articles of impeachment to the Senate, because Mitch McConnell hadn't set out any kind of clear rules about the trial. And, as previously established, we can't trust Mitch McConnell to do shit. He will not hold a fair trial if he doesn't have to. And now look, he's not. This is being recorded on January 23rd, but it doesn't come out until January 27th, so I don't know what's going to happen with impeachment between now and then. But as of right now, Mitch McConnell is not allowing witnesses to testify, even the ones who testified during the impeachment inquiry in the House just a few weeks ago, or John Bolton, who has firsthand knowledge, firsthand information. He's never testified. We haven't heard from him, even though he's said he will testify. He's never been called. It's up to Mitch McConnell to call him. He's not going to, unless we have 4 Republican senators that decide that we want to hear the truth. So that brings me to my next point. If you live in a swing state, which is Arizona, Colorado, Georgia, Iowa, Maine, North Carolina, or Texas, your job is to send this episode to your friends because your senators might actually change their minds. Those are the swing states. And if we're going to get Mitch McConnell out of the Senate and Trump out of the White House, we're going to have to do work in those states. So those are the minds that we have to change in order to not participate, to say that Americans don't want to participate in this straight up cover up, because right now, every single Republican senator, those swing states included, voted for this totally rigged trial. And you, as their constituents, we, as their constituents, want to say that that is not okay with us. But more on that later. Back to Iran. So the news broke with receipts proving that Trump knew about withholding aid from Ukraine the whole time, that he orchestrated some of it, and that news, which made him look guilty as shit, stayed in the news cycle for like 12 hours before he ordered the assassination of one of Iran's top politicians, Soleimani. So the shittiest part is that it seems like this assassination took place without much of a plan or diplomatic strategy or any understanding of the nuance of the situation at all. So while foreign policy is not my favorite topic, I'm going to try to break down what that means for us. So Qasem Soleimani was a really bad but important dude in Iran, no question about it. Him being killed in an airstrike is comparable to Mike Pence or another high-ranking official being assassinated. It is a really big deal, and we were essentially in uncharted territory for a couple days there when everybody was making those World War III jokes. The issue is that, as with a lot of Trump's actions, it seems like it was done with little to no planning about what would happen afterwards. Actually, for a couple hours, it was unclear whether the United States was even responsible for the attack. We basically found out that we were because Trump tweeted out a clip art version of the American flag, and I wish I was joking, I am not. There was no prepared press release to let Americans know that what was happening. Normally, we would know about attacks like this because Congress would have to authorize them, but again, Trump just kind of does like whatever he wants, whenever he wants. legal or not. So the use of military force without congressional approval has been a huge gray area ever since the start of the Iraq War in 2003. So I don't know if it was legal, illegal for him to authorize that attack without congressional approval, or at least without alerting the Gang of Eight in Congress. But I do know that it was super irresponsible, at least. Like I said, the Gang of Eight is a handful of the most important people in Congress, and it's customary to inform them what's going on ahead of time before you order a strike of that kind of magnitude. And like I said, he did not do that. So this airstrike was a dangerous escalation of the conflict with Iran, putting American troops abroad at particular risk. Iran's supreme leader declared 3 days of mourning and then promised harsh revenge against the United States. And this retaliation will likely be with cyber warfare, not just with acts of physical violence, which we've already seen. And this is consistent with studies that show leadership decapitation makes militant groups even more extreme, not less. That military attack by itself is considered an impeachable offense by some experts. Also, keep in mind that if Trump had set off another war in the Middle East, it would likely cost trillions of dollars and who knows how many lives. So remember that the next time there isn't money in the federal budget for debt-free college or universal childcare. Plus, if that happens, your gas is probably going to cost more too. So we all agree that this president is dangerously unfit for office. I mean, it seems like he assassinated a foreign general because he was upset the same way I assassinate bowls of ice cream when I'm sad. So last week, we all texted resist to 50409, and ResistBot helped us write letters to our senators to support impeachment. Have you heard back yet? Because Tammy Duckworth already emailed me. So if not, give it a couple more days, but they should be pretty responsive. And if you don't hear back from them, make note of that, because you are their constituent. They are supposed to be in contact with you, or they're supposed to be at least available to you. So today, if you live in one of those swing states, which again is Arizona, Colorado, Georgia, Iowa, Maine, North Carolina, and Texas, your job is to send this episode to at least one of your friends in that swing state. If you have a friend in one of those swing states but don't live in one of those swing states, your homework is to text that friend and convince them to text ResistBot. So if you want an example, you can go to my Instagram. I am going to text two of my friends. I'm going to text Kelly in Arizona and ask her to contact her shitty Senator Martha McSally. And then I'm going to text my friend Lena in Texas and ask her to write her shitty Senator John Cornyn. And if you really want to go above and beyond, after you text ResistBot, you can donate money to them. So my boyfriend of the year donated $25 to them last week. So I got to step up my game. I got to do that. So if you live in a swing state, send this episode to a friend who lives in a swing state. That means that you have a senator up in 2020 who is vulnerable to being beaten. So you guys can do a lot of work at home. If you don't live in a swing state, I want you to text one of your friends who does live in a swing state and ask them to contact their senator and demand that we have a fair trial in the Senate. And that means that we hear from witnesses, including John Bolton. It means that we get documents and evidence entered in. So do not let Mitch McConnell sweep this shit under the rug. We want a fair trial with lots of witnesses, lots of evidence. So that is our job this week. Also, to encourage you guys to leave iTunes ratings and reviews, I'm going to start reading them every once in a while. So this one comes from D Fish. The title is Finally, the Podcast I've Been Needing. And the review is, lacking knowledge in the political arena has been a huge pain point of mine for a long time. This podcast not only breaks things down in a way that I can understand, but also offers practical tips on how I can make a difference and vote in alignment with my interests. It's a must listen. So thank you, D-Fish. That was so nice. I hope you guys also feel similarly. If you do, please log on to iTunes and leave me a rating and a review, and maybe I will read yours next time. Shout out to Hope Dye for the podcast art, Kyle Dibdahl for the intro and outro music, and Ben Schlofelt for the audio production. I'd like to thank Lauren Duca, Sarah Kensier, Andrea Chalupa, Brene Brown, Lizzo, AOC, Nancy Pelosi, Karen Kilgariff, Georgia Hardstark, Marie Newman, and my mom for their inspiration, and I'd like to thank you for listening.